June 30th, right?
Now we're cool, just spinning there loading. Let's see what happens this time.
The problem is it's 137 pages.
There we go.
Still holding up.
I have the technology.
I wouldn't suggest signing anything until the permit is granted. But yes, I guess before we go to
Date-wise, we have to act today, make a commitment one or the other.
well, if you're going to go in Emerson today, even though you don't sign till later, commitment.
You guys all ready over there, or you want some more time, or
No, it's it.
All set.
playing tic-tac-toe over there?
Never even argued like that.
You guys ready? Okay. Couple more seconds. I'd like to call to order the Bucksport Town Council meeting for Thursday, June 30th, 2016. Roll call, please, Kathy.
Joseph York.
Here?
Paul Rath.
Here.
David Key.
Here.
David Keane.
Here.
David Stewart Johnson. Paul Allen.
Here.
Carmichael Jr.
Here.
Okay, item 3 is a presentation of any town council recognitions. We have one tonight. Susan?
Yes, tonight's presentation is the Spirit of America Foundation Volunteer Award, and it's being presented to Talbot Tim Emery. Tim, if you could come up to the podium. I'm going to say nice things about you.
And then I'll have things
Took
to
her a
say.
while to
I know,
find
it
the words.
didn't take long to figure this out. The Spirit of America Foundation is a 501c3 public charity established in Augusta, Maine to encourage volunteerism, and it allows the Spirit of America Foundation tribute to be presented in the name of any Maine municipality. There's no fee involved, and local officials have chosen their community's 2015 Spirit of America Awards in more than 80 towns. The first Spirit of Foundation Award was presented to Alma Jones by Augusta Mayor Bill Burney on November 26 of 1991, and since that time, Maine Governors John Baldacci, Angus King, the Maine Municipal Association President Mark Green, and Executive Director Chris Lockwood have all either been recipients or presented to others. You can find a lot more about this foundation on their website at sbiroaf.com. So the 2016 award winner for the town of Bucksport. Talbot Tim Emery is the Spirit of America Foundation Volunteer Award winner from the town of Bucksport for 2016. Tim has been the leader of the town's recreation department since 1976 and has been a tireless advocate for the youth of the community. He is responsible for the development and operation of programs and events which provide recreational opportunities for citizens from youth to senior citizens. He has been an integral part of the development, construction, and ongoing maintenance of recreation and sports field, a town swimming pool, miles of hiking trails, a mile-long waterfront walkway, and more. His dedication to the community is so strong that when the town's largest taxpayer, Verso Paper, closed the mill, he took 2/3 pay cut to help offset the impact to the budget in that year, and continued to do all the work that he has always done for the town. He knows the name of virtually every child that has gone through the local recreation and sports programs and has served as a mentor to countless numbers of children. Tim has invested 40-plus years of his life working to make this community a better place to live and raise a family. On behalf of the Bucksport Town Council and the residents of this community, thank you.
You're welcome.
Foundation, the 2016 Spirit of America Volunteer Award presented to Talbot Tim Emery from the thankful community of Bucksport, June 30th, 2016. Signed, David Keene, Mayor, and an award which you should open because it's quite key.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you very
Is
much.
anything gonna pop out?
Yeah.
As if I don't touch it.
Don't aim it at Kathy.
Very big gold watch.
Just flip it the other way.
Hang around your neck.
Ooh, thank you. Trophy.
No, turn it around. Open it. You're going to take it so you can see what it says on that. There you go.
It says, Tim, I'm glad you have eyes that can still read this. No, it says June 30th, 2016, presented to Talbot. That's how we pronounce it, Talbot. Tim
Oh,
Emery.
sorry.
Bucksport Town Council.
Very good.
Be out of your way in a minute. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim.
Thank you, Tim.
Item 4 is consider minutes of previous meetings. I believe we had some last time we were going to review. How would the council?
Second.
We have motion and a second to approve minutes from previous meetings. Anything further from the council? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Item 5, receive and review correspondence and documents. First one being Oliver Associates Construction Meeting. Minutes for 6/15/16.
The next three items, the minutes from the construction meeting as well as the weekly construction summary, are related to our sewer treatment project just up the street. The $13.4 million hole in the ground, the hole's getting smaller and the buildings are getting bigger, which is a good sign. We still, to date, have no change orders resulting in cost additions to the project. A little over a year into it, so I'm very pleased about that. And this just is a litany of the work that's been done on the project to date.
Any comments from the council? Thank you. Item 6 is public hearings. I don't believe we have any tonight. Item 7, new ordinances to be considered or introduced. We don't have any. Item 8, discussion items for manager's clarification or direction or council discussion or input on issues. First one being Flag Point concert for July 1st.
I wanted to bring to the council's attention that there will be a live music on Friday night, July 1st, from 7 to 9 at Flag Point, with the group Random Ideas. There was a question about whether a permit was needed for this event. According to our ordinances, it isn't, but I wanted to make sure that the council was aware that this was going to be taking place and that the public was, so that you can all attend. It's a free concert. Come one, come all to our beautiful waterfront.
Plus, some hoses are going to be there serving burgers and
Providing food.
at a cost.
I thought it was rather clever that it's triplets who are singing, right?
Is that-
Yes.
yeah.
And they just released their first CD or whatever called We Met in the Womb. So don't miss it. Been together a long time.
Okay, hope it's a wonderful day and evening for it. Okay, item B is bid results for sewer and water line installation at Heritage Park.
We, as you're all aware, we had put this out to bid and we got one bidder. So we put it out to bid with a must-be-completed date of October 30th, and we got 6 bidders. And the apparent low bidder, John Goodwin Jr. of Southwest Harbor Construction Company, for $74,944 with ledge removal at $150 a cubic yard. 2 of the of the results included ledge removal. I asked them to separate it out so we could compare apples to apples in this bid, and this is the result. Goodwin has the equipment expertise to do this, and this is within the budget framework that we would be able to accomplish with our existing budget.
Susan?
Yes.
The gentleman that will be overseeing the project actually contacted me, he actually used to be on the town crew here at one point. He said that it seemed like it's a project I could definitely undertake in that kind of manner. So.
We're going to, there's a resolve for that.
There's a resolve. This was just to let you know that we had 6 bidders. The resolve is to a request to award the contract to Goodwin, but we did have 6 bidders, and the bids ranged from the $74,944 up to $146,100.
Okay, item C is Household Hazardous Waste Collection, Hancock County Planning Commission.
The town received information about whether or not it wished to participate in the household hazardous waste program. There's a $1,000 fee to participate, but it allows members of the community to take hazardous waste, which we do not accept, to Ellsworth for disposal at no cost, other than what the town is paying for that disposal. There's a resolve down further. I noted that while there had been a resolve in prior years, I'm not sure that you actually participated in the program. But hazardous waste, the stuff that we don't take and can't take, is the poisons, paint, things that we don't accept. This is one way for community members to be able to do this, but it's a once-a-year thing, and if we participate, we would have to do a good job of advertising it so that people actually utilized it to make the participation worthwhile. This is just background. There's a resolve later if you decide to do it, but there's considerable information here on it.
Any questions on that? Okay, go to item D, request for handicap parking space designations.
We've had a couple of calls from people who have asked the town to designate spaces around their businesses as handicapped parking spaces. And we haven't done that primarily because the current space as outlined wouldn't comply in terms of size. I think it's 3 spaces that get acclimated if you do one. The second is that if there are no adjacent curb cuts, then marking it handicapped accessible it's just a sign on the road, but it won't accomplish the purpose, which is to allow people with a wheelchair or people with compromised ability to be able to utilize it. But this is a subject that is becoming more prevalent, and this is on here for discussion and I guess for referral to our Streets and Roads Committee to talk about what we want or how we want to handle these requests, or if we want to do a review of the downtown area and determine if there are places that we want to sacrifice some spots in order to make some spaces accessible, truly accessible for those who have compromised ability in getting around. So it's on for me to tell you that I'm getting questions and to see if we can perhaps later on schedule a Streets and Roads to talk about this as an overview. I know the Senior Resource Group is doing a lot in looking at accessibility issues, and I'm certain they would like the opportunity to weigh in if the town were to look at its policies in this regard.
Susan, are there specific areas?
One is a specific area resulting from business locations that are causing some parking issues. So, but in a more generalized way, I attended a meeting about ADA accessibility and what the town can do or should do in terms of making the downtown area more accessible in general. So there's some specific and there's some general, but there's enough interest that I think that it deserves a more public and robust discussion about what the town wants to do to move forward with this, at least to have the conversation, because it's, whatever it is, it's going to be a diversion from the way you currently have constructed things or delineated things and those kind of things.
I got one more
Mhm.
question. Is there a way that Dwayne or could give us a ballpark figure-wise?
Depending on what you want to do, I have spoken with Dwayne, and he's the one that gave me the 2.5 to 3 spaces is what you lose in terms of regular parking spaces with the inclusion of a handicapped accessible one, plus the idea of curb cuts that allow for access onto it. But depending on what the council decide or thought it might want to do, then he could probably give us an idea of what that would cost, but without an idea of how many do you want in the downtown area, how many spaces and where should they be located and that kind of thing.
I guess my question was, if he could give us a ballpark. To be honest, I don't know how many we should have. He's the street guy, he's the contractor. It would help me
I can-
on the, if I could have that information to make a decision.
Okay.
Well, I also think that we need to have a map of the town, because the right-of-ways on some of our streets is very narrow. You couldn't get a handicap accessible spot there either unless it was right in the road. So maybe we ought to identify what streets
thinking a
are
committee
even
meeting.
wide enough to,
A committee
Right.
meeting where you could look over maps of the downtown and determine.
Yeah.
Do we set that, or do we need a motion to set that? or-
We can do that at the end of the meeting under committee meetings to be.
and who's the chair of the streets and roads?
Well,
See, Perks, you were thinking about setting it already?
Yeah, Rob, the chair, and it's Joe and so.
I guess it's not even
I know
on.
just a couple things to add to it. In the downtown district, a lot of it's on Route 1 there, and I know that DOT actually owns that, and I don't believe that we're able to make those into handicap spots. But I was wondering, is there some kind of a way to have like a combination spot, like try to reserve it of a sort, you know what I mean? I don't know if there's any kind of idea like that, like a kind of be the last
Generally,
spot.
if it's designated, it's designated. There's-
Yeah, you know, if we could, maybe we could create one, a combo
You need a
spot.
placard, you need a placard for it, yeah.
Yeah,
Sort of, it depends on who gets here first spot.
a little bit. Try to have the courtesy to save it for somebody, but.
It's kind of how they are now.
Oh, okay.
That's the
This
point,
is
yeah.
true, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, we'll talk about setting a streets and road committee meeting at the end of the meeting. Okay, item E is waste disposal options post 2018. Susan?
Okay. We've been talking and thinking about garbage for months. And many of us have spent an inordinate amount of time reviewing all manner of information from both the Penobscot Energy Recovery Committee, Penobscot Energy Recovery Company, and the Municipal Review Committee, Fiber Right, which are the two proposals that are up for consideration by the town of Bucksport and how to handle their solid waste at the end of the current model, which is 2018. And I've written a memo and made a recommendation, but I want to preface this with a little what my assumptions are, many in preparing this, which is that there has been a good deal of discussion, accusations, all sorts of things about whether information being provided by either of these groups were true or false. and whether or not proposals were accurate or inaccurate. And I've spent a good deal of time analyzing pro formas and looking at proposals and reading reports from engineers, which are diametrically opposed to each other. So at the end of the day, knowing both entities, what I've decided is that both are telling the truth about their own project. And that based on both of them telling the truth about their own project, which is what I'm going forward with, that I can then compare what they are and what they offer on an apples-to-apples basis, because to do otherwise requires me to make value judgments on whether or not entities are being truthful with the town, and I'm not prepared to say that either of these entities isn't. So, all that aside, I looked at the things that I consider to be critical in this decision. And there are 3 of them that, all things being equal, that are. And they come down to long-term relationships, the greater power of municipal collaboration, and money. I'm the treasurer of this municipality, and my job is to look at what the potential cost is to the community of anything that it engages in. The MRC has been managing the solid waste disposal needs of the town of Bucksport for the entire life of the PERC facility. They have represented the interest of its members in an environmentally friendly manner as was available at the time. And they have managed the finances of the members in an extremely responsible way, which is why the communities have the sizable nest eggs that we all do with which to manage our future solid waste disposal needs. They have been working on plans since 2007 for what comes next. And the reasons that PERC and the MRC are parting ways have as many answers as there are parties involved. But at the end of the day, this is no longer part of the equation. The relationship is over. In terms of municipal collaboration, if the Fiber-Right project fails, the power of 105 communities working together through the MRC on a joint solution to the problem stands a much greater chance of success than being one of less than 40 communities with no existing intermediary that PERC should not be able to operate as promised for the tip fee promised. The breakdown of communities and their choices for future disposal at the present time are as follows. Communities committed to the MRC are 104, and communities committed to PERC, as of the list I had today, was 22. Alternatives for both proposals in the event of failures is poor. Both rely on increased use of landfills, with the Fiber-Right project sending it to Norridgewock, but the PERC backup plan sends landfill material resulting from an RDF plant to a landfill in New Hampshire, with the cost of transportation to be borne by the communities. While I understand that there is concern over whether the science that follows the MRC proposal is sound based on the fact that there is not another similar facility of this size, I believe that the MRC has done due diligence in attempting to find the most progressive, environmentally sound alternative to what they deem to be an unaffordable model at the PERC facility after the favorable electric contracts expire in 2018. They have received their draft DEP permit for the facility, and the town of Hamden will be finalizing a decision on the site location permit in July, according to documents that I have reviewed. As a caveat to considering the MRC plan, I would suggest that the council condition signature of any agreement on the receipt of both of these final permits. But finally, there is the money. Attached to this report is a breakdown of cost comparisons between the two proposals. Understanding that the town has $336,000 in tip fee stabilization funds available to it under both scenarios, I have calculated the difference in cost and used the tip fee stabilization as an offset to the PERC proposal and utilized the $5 per ton fee reduction as a charge against the same $336,000 under the MRC proposal. The result is that the PERC proposal, despite using the $336,000 as an offset, will still cost the town of Bucksport an estimated $116,667 more in fees than the MRC proposal. In addition, the MRC proposal would still retain a credit in terms of the town's tip fee stabilization fund of $231,000, which is a gross savings of $347,667. I know that it is difficult to take a risk on a new venture, and that staying with what you can see is attractive. However, I believe it is important for the council to consider the sizable potential cost difference here. Even if an alternative to fibrate needed to be found, the $347,667 cost differential provides a huge avenue for that to occur without negatively impacting the town of Bucksport financially. And finally, this is my recommendation. This is the council's decision, and whatever your decision is, I will administer to the best of my ability. Thank you. There are, down further, 2 resolutions. One is for participation in the MRC program, one is for participation in the PERC plan. So the council has the opportunity to vote on both proposals.
When you say 116,000 more in fees, is that yearly or?
That's over the 15-year life of the contract.
Over 15
yes.
years, okay.
Yep. And the spreadsheets there at the back of the report shows how that is generated. In the best of all worlds, both projects succeed, which provides competition in the waste marketplace.
So yearly it would be about 11,000 something? Okay. All right. Are we going to give both MRC and PERC an opportunity to speak tonight, or we're just going to go right on to the resolves?
That's certainly up to you. There's representatives of both here.
I would like to have the opportunity to at least have them give us a 5-minute presentation or something like that, or and then ask them questions.
Well, I put together, finished last night, a document where I tried to capture everything, and whether it's permissible to give that a read and then have them say, no, you're wrong about this or right about that. You know, one last thing, town manager did provide us in our packets with copies of the contracts that I did a speed read through, a lot of pages in there and so forth, and I think the data that I have is correct, but you know, give the town manager and other folks here a chance, but I'd like to hear from them.
I'm different. I'm happy with my town manager.
You want to? I just want to listen to what your opinion is.
Okay.
But does everybody else want to listen to what he has to say?
Would you like to start out, Paul?
Yeah, okay. All right. So again, we received the contracts in our packets from both PERC and the MRC Fiberite. I'll just call it PERC and MERC as we go along about the solid waste disposal. And as a member of the Solid Waste Committee, along with others here on the council, I've been attending, I attended both presentations in March over in Orland to listen to both groups. And actually, since about the January time frame, I have a packet of information here from newspaper reports and people that have written emails to town council members and so forth. So been following this pretty close. So the purpose of this document is to try to perform an objective evaluation of the risk, or the end user riskiness, and the reward, the fit of the prospective projects, the scope of work for the town of Bucksport and our partner community, Orland. The background, for those of you that don't know or are listening at home, there's basically a competition going on for trash for 187 main cities and towns. Bucksport, Orland generates approximately 1,400 tons of solid waste annually, or about 0.8%, less than 1% of, if you look at the MRC proposal, it's 150,000 tons is their goal. If you look at PERC, their goal is 180,000 tons needed. The two choices are continued incineration with the Penobscot Energy Recovery Company in Arlington, or under the Municipal Review Committee, MRC, the organization that represents our waste disposal interests, support fiberite technology for the building of a materials recovery facility to extract recyclables, conversion of organics to biomethane, and a new facility to be built in Hamden, Maine. So I'm basically going to look at two things very quickly here, the technology of both and some of the financials. PERC is, back on the technology side, to Sue's point, there's no political MRC backing. 187 municipalities would be at the will of PERC. PERC's end product is electricity. Waste reduction is 85% by volume. Remaining waste destination would be, I was understood, Juniper Ridge and Old Town. It is a fully compliant facility. It's well-known, common technology with a lengthy history and a record that can be readily examined. It has all its necessary permits from both the DEP and the EPA. The known operating costs, in the meeting in March, we were told that the profitability would be at $84 for municipal and $36 commercial per ton. No guaranteed annual tonnage, no penalties, guaranteed backup disposal. And the purpose of that is the PERC facility operates two boilers supplying steam to a turbine generator set, and for any reason the generator is out of service, backup disposal would be available. The viability issue with less electric revenue the generating model they presented was 4.7 cents, down from the 14 to 15 cents per kilowatt hour. The net income is reduced to a minimum. Reducing operations uptime by cycling operations between day and night, that is bottling the unit up at night, keeping it warm. PERC plans to sell the electricity for more than 4.7 cents per kilowatt hour, and thereby increase the net income to provide a reasonable return on their investment. In addition, they said that operations staffing manpower would be reduced from 75 to 55. Moving over to the MRC fiberite side of the house now. Fiberite has in fact earned the backing of the MRC. We plan to build a privately funded $60 to $70 million facility in Hamden. Fiberite technology involved is basically separating recyclable materials and non-organic matter from the mixed waste stream and putting the organics into an anaerobic digester, and product will be compressed to natural gas, CNG, with waste reduction at 75% by volume. The remaining waste destination is Crossroads in Norwich Walk. So again, I'm still talking about some of the technology risks and with fiberite. Number one, it's an aggressive timeline, ready to receive municipal solid waste by April 1st, 2018. It is, in my opinion, a high-risk proposition. And the question I have is, will the technology work on a commercial industrial scale? It's not proved itself so far. Pilot plant facilities have been ongoing since 2008, 2009, and a pilot plant in Virginia, which handles roughly 5 tons of trash delivered every couple times per week. Fiberite has never built a commercial scale project in the U.S., and in the meeting in March I asked if they had done anything in Europe, and they said the answer was no, although they said that Europe tends to go in this direction, but they have not built any facilities. The Iowa facility converting a corn ethanol plant was supposed to produce trashanol, and ramp up to about 640,000 tons. It has missed multiple deadlines and repeatedly announced plan change. Mothball the garbage to ethanol described as a very difficult at the moment, quote unquote. They also brought in CPI out of the UK, Center of Process Innovation. They were brought on to work on the process technology needs. And then finally, the question I have on technology risks is what happens with the residual waste, the nasty stuff, the heavy metals, the PCBs, the asbestos, things like that. Now over on the financial side, and I'm almost done, please bear with me. PERC would charge the cities and towns $89.57 per ton over a 10-year contract, or $84.36 over a 15-year contract, and change with the CPI, Consumer Pricer Index, each year. There is an equity charter reserve totaling just under $35 million as of December 31st, 2014. The bottom line includes $25 million in community's estimated share of the profits in PERC as of 2018. Bucksport's share would be $492,891, Orland $85,001. Over on the MRC Fiberite side, it's $70 per ton for 1 year, also subject to a change with CPI annually. I have not personally seen a pro forma on the facility's capital cost, operating expenses, or revenues. Fiberite's plan is to find industrial customers in the region for CNG, such as Bangor Natural Gas, along with the commodity value of byproducts. The economics of the proposal process remain unresolved and therefore uncertain, in my opinion. Given the relatively low profit margin, the volatility in the recycled materials and biofuels markets, and the capital required for full implementation of the process. As described, the Fiber proposal is to be privately developed, yet the proposed site will be owned by MRC at a cost of $5 million and leased to Fiberite. Additionally, the MRC is providing $7 million towards the building, so that's a total of $12 million MRC is placing towards what is supposed to be privately funded. So what protection is there for municipalities for liability, bankruptcy, performance bond? I asked a question about performance bond in March, and they said there wasn't one. So the municipalities, in the end, could end up owning the land when it's an empty building because Fiberite is supposed to take all of their process equipment out of it. So the bottom line for me, this is my personal opinion as town councilor, is I believe it is in the town's best interest to continue our association with the Orrington-based PERC facility and not place our tax dollars on a proposal that remains highly speculative.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
I'd like the opportunity to ask a couple of questions to each.
I wonder, Mr. Mayor, if we could have just a short analysis from the town manager, not arguing, but is there anything you'd like to respond there to in regard to the report that you just gave? I know it's quite a mouthful, and good for you for the research. That's
No, I
very
think
helpful.
that Councilor Epps has done, certainly done due diligence in researching the science associated with what is here. The 492 as opposed to 336. 336 is the estimated tip fee stabilization fund, the $25 million in cash that's available to communities. The remainder of the money that you're talking about is equity in the PERC plant, which is not a cash availability at this point to the municipalities and may or may not be. The discussion of some of the, I think PERC is here, the MRC is here, perhaps can answer some of the other questions in regard to this. In analyzing tip fee, the proposal and the contracts for tip-free differentials, in my estimation, just have to be so much larger than proposed to eat up the difference created by that, in my estimation, changes the risk profile, because the it has to be so wrong for it to be more than that over time, that it is not. And the bigger concern, and that there isn't a dollar amount to be placed on it, but failure with 104 partners, or the potential for failure with 104 partners, breeds a higher chance in my mind of success than failure with less than 40 municipalities who are on their own. So it's all a matter of perspective, and as I said, I respect the council and everybody's opinion on this. We've all come at it from different perspectives, and at the end of the day, I stopped trying to be a scientist because I'm not, and I have to rely on the consultants of both sides that tell me that what their plant will do is successful. As I said earlier, the best outcome is that both plants are successful. But it isn't. This isn't a one is good and one is bad scenario. It's a matter of choice based on how the council sees risk and what you see as the differential in that risk and the financial costs that it may be. So as I said, I'm not.
One of the, I've shared with you my spreadsheet that I did before too, and my numbers and your numbers match to the dollar. But where they did grow closer was if we went to a single sort, because there was a vendor that was, if we went to single sort, it would be $55 a ton, and that brought things closer together.
Yes. That the more prior to 2018 that the town is able to do in the order of recycling, the better in terms of risk from anything, because you have less solid waste to worry about getting rid of. And we had talked about that implementation.
So that would apply to either,
That-
in either case, in terms
Yes.
of savings?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, if we could achieve a 20% reduction, it would take the cost of PERC from $84.36 down to $78.48, and the MRC plan would go from $70 down to $67 a ton, just at a 20% level. And you realize, and we do quite a bit of that up there already, where, you know, we collect cardboard, newspaper, bundle it, send it out, so very small bit. Anyway, thank you for listening.
What I'd like to do, if everybody's in agreement, is to give each party 5 minutes, and at the end of that 5 minutes, any questions comes up from the council. That 5 minutes would at least give the people at home and in the audience here who haven't been to any of the meetings to at least hear each outfit's proposal. So I guess the way to do it would be by alphabetical order, MRC over PERC. So MRC would be the first, unless you guys want to draw straws. Okay. And we'll give you each like 5 minutes. So you can take the whole 5 minutes or open it up to questions whenever you feel
It's
comfortable.
nice to come in first, once in a while. So, Mr. Mayor, Town Councilors, good evening. My name is Greg Lounder. I'm the Executive Director of the MRC, and I appreciate the opportunity to address you this evening. And I'll start by saying it's been a real pleasure to be of service to the town of Bucksport for 21 years. I started with the MRC in 1995. Our mission then was straightforward. It was to look after the interests of the communities and be sure that we had available affordable, environmentally sound disposal of MSW for the long term, and that's always been our values and our focus. We've had the good fortune through the years of having that mission met through the availability of the PERC facility up the road in Orrington, It served our needs very well. One of the key element that's allowed our MSW to remain affordable through the years is the legacy power purchase agreement in place through the years. That concludes March 31, 2018, the same end date as our municipal waste disposal agreements. And so going back a number of years now, we initiated our process to plan for the post-2018 period. We started early. It's a good thing, because given the complexity of this winding road that brings us to the last day here today of the municipal consent process, it certainly did take all that time to work through the issues. As far back as 2009, the MRC Board of Directors, who are an elected body of municipal officials that provides the policy and business direction of the organization, so it's been a municipally driven organization all these years. The preference going back to 2009 was to continue with the facility. It's always served us well. That was a preferred course stated by the Board of Directors in 2009. As we got further and further into the details and recognized the economic and operational difficulties associated with operating PERC in a post-2018 realm after the expiration of the PPA, we had to accept the difficult truth that there was no practical or viable means by which the plant would be able to continue to be affordable and reliable for us after 2018. And so it was only at that point that we did a broad evaluation of a wide range of processing technologies that might serve as a replacement for PERC that would allow us to continue to process waste, but in a way that was affordable. So the way we evaluated is a lot of discussion, good discussion tonight about risk, some excellent points made. No question, the MRC Fiber Right plan is not without risk, no doubt about it. But our job was to evaluate the full range of risk, including the risk associated with continuing the existing facility we have. And after exhaustive research, and we have released a full pro forma analysis of the Fiber Right project, we certainly would not have brought that option forward to the municipalities if we did not believe that it represented the lowest risk prospect among the prospects available to us. So with that, we carefully crafted the agreement structure in a way that does seek to mitigate risk to the municipal membership in a number of respects. And so with that, I'm probably pushing on.
You're close.
On to me.
Okay.
So I think that would be a good spot to start. Again, I appreciate the opportunity to address you, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I got a question on when you started looking at alternatives in 2007. Were there other technologies out there that were proven and up and operational as opposed to the Fiber Right option, or was it just that Fiber Right option seemed to be the best economically?
Well, the Fiber Right option didn't. I mean, we did begin initially to discuss post-2018 planning as far back as 2007. But really, in the beginning, it was a pretty superficial sort of. We didn't delve deeply into the process details. It was more an orientation for the Board of Directors of the various technology types that were out there and being experimented with. Fiber Right really didn't emerge as a serious contender until the 2013 point in time. And what we did, and we've tried to be a systematic organization, a thoughtful organization, so we organized an RFP in early 2013 and developed a rather lengthy, detailed framework by which respondents would provide their submissions to us for the board's review. So it was really a result of that process that Fiber-Rite came into the picture. And so what we did of the 15 proposals we received, we just kind of winnowed through all of them and systematically evaluated them and whittled them down. And at the end of the day, Fiber-Rite just emerged as the most viable prospect among the ones that we evaluated.
I guess my question is, municipal waste is worldwide, and there
Yeah.
must be some really good technology, best available technologies out there, proven technologies that I'm surprised didn't fit into your criteria for the search, as opposed to a kind of a new technology. But that's just,
Yeah, well, we certainly, we looked exhaustively at the continuance of the RDF technology that we know and have, and we actually looked at one point of converting the plant to a mass burn. That's not a real well-known thing, but yeah, we looked at a number of ways of retrofitting the existing facility, and so the course of our evaluation ultimately led us to the conclusion that the Fiber-Rite technology was the best available technology to suit our particular needs here in this region at our scale and that sort of thing.
now the stuff that isn't turned into gas or some commodity that we're selling has to go to Norwich Walk,
Yes.
and is that paid for by,
That's
The
on
municipalities?
that's on Fiber-Rite.
which is part of the
Right, but
tipping
we-
fees from the communities?
Yeah, what we currently have is the residual disposal cost is a variable pass-through component to our tip fee, so we've had to pay close attention to that through the years, and we wanted to move, that's one example of trying to take some of the risk off of our tipping fee based on the practical experience we've had doing this.
Is there a guaranteed tonnage that we would have to commit to?
No, we've put
Fiber-Rite.
together what we call an estimated delivery amount, and again, through the years, the individual municipalities had the guaranteed annual tonnage, and so we wanted to move away from that system. And
So if we improved our recyclables and delivered less tonnage to Fiber-Rite, it wouldn't affect
Right,
our price?
right.
One other thing is privately funded. How's that going? Do they have 50% of the money, 75% of the money, 100%?
Yeah, well, we've targeted, and again, these things move a bit, but we've targeted financial close, on the optimistic side is 60 days, the next 60 to 90 days, we hope to be able to reach financial close, and all signals are very good. And I expect that we are in a position to reach financial close.
And if you don't, it's going to delay the startup, I would assume.
It'll, sure,
Yeah.
absolutely.
What do you think the startup date is now?
We're,
Well,
we're,
here's where I'm coming from. I'm not trying to be nasty. In March, when we saw you at the meeting over in Orland, you thought, well, we're going to have our permits in a couple days, and it took a long time to get there. So has that had any impact on the startup date?
the receipt of right, which we just finally,
Yeah, I know.
within a week or two ago, and yeah, I do remember being very optimistic in mid-March that it's another week or two, and that was, I share your frustration, but no, that hasn't upset the overall schedule.
Okay.
But what will, as was mentioned, was
Finance.
it's all about release of the money.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. the
That
next-
gets delayed, and we're not able to get construction of the roadway, and
Yep, and back in March, I remember you saying that if in the event the startup date was missed, then you had put some sort of a reserve or a contingency fund aside to cover transportation costs, because then it would be on the town of Bucksport to take our trash to Norwich Walk?
well, we've established, right, and it's a twofold. If there's a delay in initial startup, that's, not to the fault of Fiber-Rite, then we would be in a position of picking up a little extra transportation expense. That's what we've reserved for. But if it's a condition where it's not an excuse delay, that, Fiber-Rite's got to carry the extra cost of that. But we reserved against it just in case. The other thing we did to hedge that You know, and we may need that initial bridge, we may not. I mean, time
But
will
if
tell.
that bridge is required, it'll be on the town of Bucksport to transport it down to Norwich Rock.
Yeah, would collectively, as a group of communities, and we would want to be a little more efficient about it. I mean, if it's a bridge for 2 or 3 months, the folks are probably moving direct. If it's a longer period than that, we'd need to think about consolidating. But that's what we put that reserve in place for, so we'd be in a position to deal with that as a group of communities if we needed to.
But the delay, so if it's a delay permitting, which you indicated that hasn't, even though you just got the permits, that's not part of the delay, it would be different than if the funding didn't come.
Yeah.
The funding would be on you, the fiber right? So in that case, the towns wouldn't have to pay for the shipping? If I heard you correctly,
If there's a delay
you
in
indicated that if fiber right wasn't at fault, if that's what I heard, then the towns would have to pick up.
Yes, but if Fiberite's at fault, they would have to pick up the transportation fee.
So I guess what
So-
I'm getting at is right now, the only thing holding it up would be the funding.
Well, right.
Which
And
is
we
on
won't-
the town, I mean, that ideally, any holdup, I mean, that means you're worded in a timely manner to get your permits, would be if you don't get your permit. So that's not really on the town, that's on fiber right. And if you can't get your funding, that's
Yeah,
really,
well, but the financial close, right, is
That's all,
their
yeah.
that's their responsibility, so we're probably in pretty good shape in that respect. But I mentioned, too, that the tip fee over there, if we need to go there, is 62 rather than 70, so there's a little bit of a differential to help hedge the transportation difference.
What's the date for finance? Isn't it January that financial, you have to have reached financial by, is it January of 2017? When
Yeah,
is
we
that?
have an option built in, right, if they don't reach financial close by January 1, 2017, and we would have the option, right, of canceling out and heading in a different direction. But that's at our, and that would be something, of course, if we reach that point, we'd be getting the municipalities together and having a group conversation about where we want to head with it.
Is there any type of profit sharing between the MRC and Fiberite, or do all the profits from the operation of the plant go to Fiberite?
Now, we built a profit-sharing element into this arrangement as well, because it's worked well for us in the past. And we also, I mean, that's one area, what we have learned through the years is it's important to be able to be in a position to monitor operations and finances and such. And so by building a revenue-sharing element into this, that opens that door so we can have the means to evaluate the finances and operations and so forth. And another element of control in all this, there's a lot of questions over why, with the interest in the landlord being the land owner. And again, rather than have a limited partnership that would repeat like the one we're in, we tried to take the best lessons learned from that and apply them to the new arrangement. And as we evaluated ways that we could assume, the idea is to optimize project control while minimizing project risk. And what we learned in our evaluation was that that tenant-landlord relationship ended up being a reasonable avenue to take in order to have our goals as municipalities met.
With your agreement with Norwich Walk, I believe you, back in March, was it, when we were in Orland, you had mentioned that you have, maybe it was a 5 or 10-year contract with them, but it also was 10 years, but also it was specific to how many cubic yards or whatever. So if, for some reason, the plant didn't start up on time, or the waste going to Norwich Walk is greater than what they had predicted, in other words, they weren't getting as much out of the biogas or whatever, then that would fill up that tonnage number way before the 10 years. What contingency plan do you have if that happened?
Yeah, a couple of things, because you are correct. If you start using that airspace, pardon the slang, but, you use that hard, you're going to use it up. And there is a chance, we have a 10-year contract, right, to that airspace over there. We've had discussions with Waste Management. One element that they're able, or capability that they're able to bring to the table here, they're a very large company. They do have a lot of municipal customers in the southern part of the state. And they have, it's got to be New England's largest landfill down in Rochester, New Hampshire. So they have indicated that they, while their airspace, is going to be getting depleted, they have indicated a willingness to try and move some customer base around in order to preserve the contract right that we have in place with them. Yeah, you get to, that's wonderful, but is there a risk that that airspace gets chewed up 2 or 3 years before yeah. And the contingency would be, they have evaluated land areas adjacent to the existing landfill, and they have stated their intentions of trying to seek an expansion at some point, but there's a lot of risk associated with that too.
Anybody else have any questions? We're drilling in pretty hard here.
Indication on the Hamden permitting, is the flavor?
Yeah, well, we're deep into the planning board process, and of course we've got the highest level of respect for the planning board process, and so I would stop short of being too speculative as to what the outcome will be. But I will say that after, I think we've been through 4 planning board meetings to date, I'm confident that our submissions will show that we'll be fully compliant in all respects. We do seem to be narrowed at this point down to a couple. Well, it can even take odor, I think, is really the one last remaining element that is what I'd characterize as open. But I'm confident that we'll be able to address any outstanding odor concerns if there are any, and have the final approval appropriately conditioned in a manner satisfactory to the town. So I think we're in pretty good shape.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Right. Thank you all.
Herc?
Good evening. Thank you very much for allowing us an opportunity to present tonight. My name is Henry Lang. I'm the plant manager at the Park plant. I have been there since November of 1987, and I'm pretty familiar with the plant. The plant has been operating for close to 28 years. It is a plant that's there, it exists, it has all of its permits. We have looked at our, what we can do post 2018 to operate the plant in a profitable manner. You have the idea of what our contracts are going to be. We only look to increase or decrease the contract tipping fee by the CPI, which I believe is very similar to the other offerings here. As an equity charter community, you have a very large stake in terms of equity. That's yours. You can do with it in whatever you want. We don't view that as something that needs to be dispersed in any particular manner. That's completely up to you. If you want to use that to reduce your tipping fee over time, again, that's your prerogative. We don't ask the town to assume technical risk. In terms of the plant, it's a known quantity. We have currently 77 employees. We're very experienced. The majority of us have been there for in the 20-year range. So in terms of making the plant operate, it's not an unknown at all. We have been criticized that the plant is worn out. We've had the plant analyzed by a third-party engineering firm who have indicated that the plant is well maintained, that it has another 20 years life left in it. There's been a criticism that that engineering study did not take into account operating at a lesser load and with thermal cycling. We've had a follow-on technical memo from that same engineering firm that has indicated that the mode of operation is certainly within the acceptable design of the plant, and it shouldn't, provided that we do normal maintenance, shouldn't cause it to fail at any point earlier than expected. That said, we engaged our boiler manufacturers to ensure that they had the same feeling. So we had Riley Power come in, and Riley has evaluated the method that we're looking at for operating the boilers at the full MCR during the day, which is maximum load, and then at night taking one of the units and securing it and running the other one at about 50% of MCR to produce just the power we need in-house to process fuel, garbage into fuel, and then come back up the next day. What we've seen is that historically the higher price for electricity is between 6 in the morning and 9 at night. And that's really what we're going to do is about 6 o'clock we'll be back up to full load. At about 9 at night we'll tail down and put one to bed. Anything else I should touch on?
Well, I'd just like to add, the PERC plant has very little technical risk. It's going to be paid for. It requires no municipal...
Excuse me, would you mind coming up here so that people watching on TV can hear what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm Matt Albert. I'm the maintenance superintendent for the plant, and I just wanted to add a few things. The PERC plant is going to be paid for at the end of all this. That's huge. This doesn't require a $60 million investment from private funding or commitment from you all from what you've got left in equity. I think that's a huge consideration to make. I think right now you've got about $493,000 in that position that belongs to Bucksport. Signing with Fiberite means you're going to commit most of that up to Hamden. And we've got our permits. They're still working on theirs. They've got a lot of roadblocks to meet before they can spin this thread. I'd like to also add that the people at PERC do the work. I get the impression, just since I've been on board for about 3 years, that other people have been taking credit for all this success. Quite the contrary, I work with 76 other people that are quite committed and family-like, and I'd just like to say that we do the work. And I take offense otherwise. I think we have a bright future. We've got some plans in place that most people aren't aware of, because we're a for-profit enterprise. We're going to proceed as such. We don't plan on going away. I certainly wouldn't be here thinking I was wasting my time talking to you all, and neither would Hank. We're here. We'll be there. It's your decision. Do what you feel is right, and when you're done, we'll be up the road if you need us.
I got a question. A lot of, the operating scenarios are based on bidding into the power grid.
Yes.
I'm very familiar with bidding into the power grid. There's a lot of power plants, biomass power plants, other power plants that are basically idle right now because they can't afford to bid in and make a profit. How are we guaranteed that, 6 months from now you come back to us and say, geez, we just can't bid into the power grid because what we bid into, we break even on, we're going to need another $10 or $15 a ton so that we can at least make some profit. Because the electrical market is all over the place. Like I said, a lot of biomass plants. So do you have any long-term contracts, or are you going to be bidding in daily?
Well, We have a consultant that's working full-time on that. He has been for about 4 years. I have seen some electrical agreements with some other waste-to-energy concerns like ours. And it's a variable over the year, as you might assume, but they are certainly operating at a much less price than we are now, and they're running just fine. One of the things that makes us unique as far as the purchase power agreement is we have to share the profit in so many ways. Well, at the end of 2018, March 31st, we're not going to have to share that anymore. For example, we have to share 42% of the profit back to the communities. That's why you have all that money. It's part of the contract. We have to set that aside. We have to set that aside for you. We also set aside 33% to Emera Maine. So when you're looking at that much profit being chunked away from that PPA, and then, well, if we get $50, $60, we still get the revenue that we had before. So I can stand here, and I'm not concerned about us not being able to make it. I know the plant's in good shape. We take care of it.
And as Matt has stated, the plant is paid for at that point, so there's not that stream that you're actually paying money out on. And as far as the energy bidding in per day, it's done by people who know what they're doing. I mean, that's what they're paid to do.
But we'll no longer have the agreement where a certain amount of the tipping fee is put back into an account for us like we have, like we used to have under the MRC.
Right, this is strictly a pay-for-services contract.
But you will have equity in the plant, just the same.
You still currently have equity in the plant. Post-2018, there are going to be some towns that are not going to be in the plant anymore, and we believe that there are going to be towns that stay in the plant. So
After 2018, we have no equity in the plant.
Oh, absolutely.
why would you lose it?
How would we access it?
You own it.
No, I mean, how would, if it's equity and we're there, how do we access it? We said we've got X amount, and what does that mean in terms of, I understand the tip fee stabilization money that's cash, but equity in the plant, if we decided to go there and then go somewhere else, would you write us a check for the equity?
I believe you'd have to look at how the partnership is structured, and my belief would be that the general partner would either offer you an amount based on percentage, or some other municipality that maybe wanted to get in would buy it from you. I don't know.
They would certainly be your share of the plant. That would be your property to either buy or sell, keep.
Well, the equity is equity in the plant. It's not a liquid asset to go with you. If you sold it to somebody, I'm not sure if we get 50 cents on the dollar or how that works, but the issue is that in looking at money available to towns to plan on putting in their pocket if they walk away from the MRC on an immediate basis, and say that the cash is the tip fee stabilization money as far as I believe.
That's available to you.
That's correct.
That's available
As an
to you.
offset to the increased the difference in tip fee, which is...
It's your cash now.
That's correct, yep. The tip fee stabilization fund is, and in looking at what I presented, the tip fee stabilization money was used under this scenario to offset the difference in tip fee between the MRC proposal and the PERC proposal, and that tip fee stabilization fund only, that difference in fee alone, using that tip fee stabilization money to offset the difference, runs out in year 12. In years 13, 14, and 15, the differential is 100%, and thereafter it's 100%. But the equity issue in terms of what is available to the towns, I understand. And the other thing that is, this partnership ends, and this company, the corporation, ends in 2018. There's this partnership is over, and over it's been restated a number of times, but there's a legal question right now that hasn't yet been resolved about whether or not PERC can contract under the current organization for contracts post-2018. And I've seen the legal review of whether or not it's possible or not, but the question is out there but not settled entirely as to
That'll
whether
have to
PERC
be-
LP can go forward.
PERC will go forward. What it's called after this, we don't know, but it will go forward.
Oh, I agree that PERC will go forward. And do not say that PERC will not go forward. I'm saying that the structure of this partnership is not, that's over. The new entity will not be what the current entity
so
is, because the partner's gone.
So the question in terms of the equity piece, it's basically worthless at the end of the partnership? Is that what you're...
I don't know the answer. The MRC
Well-
has, and I don't think it...
If everybody leaves PERC, we walk away and don't decide to come to work, then it's worthless. If we've got power contracts and we've got trash contracts, then we're going to be a business and we're going to be operating. Whether it's from you all or whether it's from commercial accounts, that's a new business model past this. I agree that it's going to be done, but we're going ahead. Now, the legal matter will ultimately be settled in the courts. Our attorney's review, I don't know if you have a copy of that, but I do have a copy of it here, says, of course we have a right, just as much as the mayor has a right to go down and buy a house on Toddy Pond if he wants to. I mean, we can do this, just like the MRC can seek contracts too.
I agree that that PERC can seek contracts. The only thing I question, and it was raised as an issue by I think the town of Herman, was whether or not they could seek contracts under the name of the existing partnership. And that's the question, because signing a contract, and I had this discussion with the owners and Henry a week or so ago as to whether or not, and it was my understanding that the attorneys were working on how to resolve that as a situation, because signing up with an organization now that will not be in existence in 2018
I'm
was
not
not
a lawyer,
going
but
to.
most of the time when you have a contract like that, it might be Dave Keene's Auto, its successors and assigns. I think that's how you get around that.
But I think also, if you look at the piece that came out from Mr. Katsioufikas,
Mhm.
addressed that. And he is the lawyer working for Herman, right?
That's correct.
Okay. And my understanding is that he was satisfied that it would continue past 2018, in a form that would serve them. And my understanding is that tonight that they have made their decision to go with PERC.
That's we didn't read that legal opinion the same way. In my understanding that it is not clear, it may be a litigated matter. As a matter of fact, the bottom line is that probably much of this will be a litigated matter before it's over. And that's unfortunate for both entities, because it would be good if both could be successful. I mean, at the end of the day, if both entities could be successful, there's no downside to that.
Well, you haven't heard us say that both
No.
entities couldn't
I'm
be.
not saying it, but I am saying that the technical details of how what the partnership is called and who you contract with is an important component if you're signing a contract in 2016 that you plan on not affecting anything with until 2018. But anyway.
Any other questions?
No.
Yes, sir.
There you go.
I was with, let's just say that 22 communities are committed to you guys. Is that still going to be profitable to you with that kind of trash volume?
Yes.
Do you feel comfortable?
It's not just 22 communities. We
I
have
understand.
commercial waste with that. So
Right.
we have tons to run.
All right. But the difference is going to be 104 or so that do not bring it there. Is that going to?
Which is
A goodly portion of the trash that's considered commercial post-2018 is actually right now being considered in the amounts coming from municipalities. But post-2018, when there's no longer flow control, because communities won't have an ownership or debt in a waste facility, then commercial haulers can, it's a commodity at that point, waste is, can take it wherever it's profitable for them. That's my understanding. And there may be some contention about that from other places.
Oh, of course. A little bit of volume difference. Following up on Councilor York's question there, I assume that when you knew the split was coming, I know we've received quite a bit of information in recent times about the split coming and how it should be done, and you're putting forth your proposal. And I assume that you've also gone before several selectmen boards and councils to state the case. What do you attribute to, from your viewpoint, what is the reason that there's such a discrepancy between those that are staying with PERC and those that are going with MERC on the municipal side, not the commercial side?
For many years, the MRC has been our communications conduit to the communities, back and forth. In the years where we've had a disagreement, we have been slow in establishing that communication loop outside of the MRC. And while they have worked very well with us, we've reached the point where we are inexperienced in coming out and talking to town councils, and it's just, this is new ground for us. I'm an operations person. I'm not generally a PR person. But what you're seeing here is that the employees at the plant are engaged, and we're filling a role that traditionally has been filled by other people.
I can appreciate that, but considering what I would guess is millions of dollars of money involved here overall, that one would have a PR department to pick up that end of it when a competitor.
Well, we have contract, and we do have a couple of people that are working on the PR side for us, but they can't cover everything. So we've stepped up and we've come out around, and all we're here to do is share the information and answer your questions. I think the towns that have decided to come with and stay with PERC have been more informed, and they've appreciated the information, and that's all we're here to do tonight.
We really just want people to look at the proposals and make an informed choice. We'll work our way ahead. I mean, it's truly, again, it's your money.
There's still 61 communities that haven't decided yet.
I think, yeah. A lot of them don't have town meetings until July or so.
Wait, I think there's other information. What was the split that's left, Greg?
I don't know in terms of the number of towns so much, but tonnage-wise, there's about 43,000 tons that have gone to distant facilities outside our existing service area. So
Canada,
the only
other
towns
places.
left to decide in July that I'm aware, I think there's three. There's three left, so the choice is pretty well been made.
This is a big decision for our community, and going into the future. And on one hand, we've got a company that's unproven, and they haven't got all their financing available yet to even build a plant. And we've got another company that basically we still got some contract issues to work through, and I mean, it's going to be hard to make a decision when we don't have the things we need, the contract issues, the long-term financing. Is there a drop-dead date that we have to vote on this? Is that tonight?
If there's a drop-dead date, it's not driven by the PERC end of things.
Okay.
In order to take advantage of the $65 a ton with a $5 ton offset and future revenue possibilities, June 30th is the date. I think that those with July dates are allowed. The for that for town meetings, but I think otherwise, June 30th. We had asked for this
Yeah.
as a deadline.
It's an awful lot of money to consider laying out to save $4 or $5. Supposedly
We're aware
$4
of
or
that.
$5.
Any other questions?
I don't know if MRC is able to answer this, where they were, what we call it, a PR person for PERC. Is that do you guys think it's possible to function on that kind of volume of trash?
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to go on to agenda items. The first one is to approve Resolve R 2016-78 to allow participation in the Hancock County Regional Hazardous Waste Disposal Program on August 20th, 2016. Now, do we have to pay the $1,000 whether we participate or not?
We have to, if we participate, we have to pay the $1,000. We have to pay the $1,000 whether anyone shows up with hazardous waste or not. That's the.
But if
you don't pay the $1,000, people from Bucksport can't go drop off their stuff at this hazardous waste.
even if they go and pay for it themselves?
That's correct.
Is there a way on a certain day, or maybe a couple of days, for it to be collected here and transported over
We
the
don't have a transporter's license for hazardous waste. You can't.
trunk of the car?
No, that's not.
Bring your car down here.
No,
and put it in the back of your truck.
this Counselor Key is joking.
Could that be? Is there, well, there really isn't any other, what's the other option other than, God forbid, putting it in the woods or something? I mean, you got to get rid of this stuff sometime, some
Participate in
way.
the past.
There was a resolve, but I don't think that you ended up approving
I don't
it.
think they did.
And I think the concern is that because it's in Ellsworth, maybe people wouldn't drive to Ellsworth
Yeah.
to get
I was
rid of
about to
it.
say, is there any history on who?
I know we did once, and we had one person, just one person, and so we've never done it since, because it was one.
Is there any way that we could ask the people in Ellsworth if they have a transportation license where they could come up here and pick it up, and we can't even store it at our facility, can we?
No, and the reason it's in one place is nobody can transport it. I mean, they've sort of located this in the most central place they could.
So we paid
Yeah,
$1,000 for one person?
The issue is, though, that if everybody looked in their garage, they'd find paint, oil, poison, and all those kind of things that need to go to a hazardous waste facility that sit in your garage, as opposed to doing that, or God forbid, go somewhere else that they shouldn't go. I think that were the town to participate, we'd have to do an all-out media blitz to try and encourage
just thinking
everyone
that, but-
to participate. Now, that's a risk of that you could get one person again and not do it, but I put it out here because it's the only option this year for the town if it wishes to provide a way for residents to get rid of this stuff. There's no other one.
But residents can transport it, but the municipality can?
We can't collect it, we can't transport it, we can't.
Okay, how would the council like to proceed?
I say we give it another year.
Well, I think that, I don't know how much the media blitz, well, I remember when we did it the last time. I don't know how much media blitz there was then, but the history is that one person, $1,000. I mean, just before this, we're talking about millions of dollars. I mean, it's not a lot of money, but by the same token, it's not a very, the history isn't good.
We did post, we had posters here, we had posters at the transfer station, and we had it on our website the last time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we did have it out there.
We'll
Okay.
wait till we get a hazardous waste license.
But the way,
That's gonna be it.
okay, the way this resolve is presented is to approve the resolve.
So if you approve it and don't vote for it, it dies.
Right.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have motion and second to approve the resolve. Anything further from the public? From the council? All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion fails. Item B, to approve Resolve R 2016-79, to accept local road assistant funds for 2016 through 17 from MDOT in the amount of $62,180.
Motion approved.
Second.
We have motion and a second to approve the resolve. Anything further from the public? From the council? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Item C, to approve Resolve R 2016-80, to award the contract for installation of water and sewer lines in Heritage Park Extension to John W. Goodwin Jr. for a price of $74,944 with an additional $1.50 per cubic yard for ledge removal to be funded from the Highway Reserve account. How would the council like to proceed?
Motion to approve.
Second?
We have a motion and a second to approve the resolve. Anything further from the public? From the council?
That's $150, right? Per cubic yard.
Is that what they say?
I thought you said $1.50.
Maybe I did.
It's 150.
150. Correct that if that's what I
Still
said.
motion.
And what's
Well, it's
the
in the
completion
resolve.
date? Estimated completion date is when?
October 30.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, item D, to approve Resolve R 2016-81, to approve the purchase of a stationary compressor for the Highway Department from Ramsdale Auto Supply for a price of $4,999 to be funded from the Town Garage Reserve. How would the council like to proceed?
You get bids.
What's that?
They did have bids, but they were,
They did,
one of them was
they contacted
$11,000.
Nice.
I don't know what kind of air compressor.
three, I think they had three prices, which our bid process is what requires and resulted in Ramsdale Auto Supply, NH Bragg, and Snap-on Tools with the low price being $4,999. One was $7,350, and the other one was $13,495.
Wow. Motion approved.
Second.
We have motion and a second to approve the resolve. Anything further from the public? Yes, sir.
I just wonder why are they changing it? What's wrong with the one that's there?
I assume it's broke, but I'm
All
not
it
sure.
says here is it's 20 years old, is all it says on the resolve, so. That's,
As part of the capital improvement plan for 2017, the replacement of the stationary air compressor that was now 20 years old was scheduled to be replaced. If there's any useful life left in the existing one, that would be put out for bid.
Yeah, I just wondered, is it that big a compressor?
it says
That
it's a,
seems like a huge amount of money.
it says it's a 7.5 horsepower, 150 PSI is what it says, but I do agree with you, Bruce.
I'm gonna say that's what mine was 1,500.
It says it's a screw type motor. I don't know what that's all about.
And the bid amounts were, again?
$4,999, $7,350.62, and $13,495.
Have we had a motion yet?
Yes.
Second? Are we waiting for a seconded, or?
No.
Okay. And we asked for comments. Any other comments from the public? Any further comments from the council?
Well, do you think that, I mean, I'm almost satisfied, because if we had only, if we didn't have three bids, but I can't believe that everybody, I wouldn't be opposed to, I don't know, this has to be done today, to table it long enough to find out if their concerns might have some merit. When somebody in the crowd says they know about machinery and theirs costs $1,500, it makes me a little nervous.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
However, I think that I put some value on the fact that 7,000 and 13,000, it sounds pretty legit. So if anybody feels the same way, wants more time to check it out, I don't think the world would stop
I
if
was
we
just
tabled
thinking
it.
the same thing.
Yeah.
I have faith in our
Absolutely.
our Public Works Director with the bids. It just seems, that seems like a huge disparity. If it's worth, taking one more month or a couple weeks to check out the bids and verify models and comparisons to see if, it can be a little closer to 1,500, it might be worth it. I don't know how urgent it is to get it right now.
I suspect we're going to find out that there are some things that are different with this one that get it out of that $1,500 bracket and get it up to where the
Right.
bids are. But I don't know that for a fact. I don't think the world would stop if we waited.
There's a huge difference between buying it at Lowe's or Home Depot and buying an industrial
I'm
piece
sure.
of equipment.
I'm sure.
It's an industrial piece of equipment. But they're made differently. You can go buy a Toro from Lowe's, and it's different from a Toro from Bradstreet. I'm just telling you. I mean, I'm not an expert on it, but it's a proven fact.
I'm buying a staff one too, to tell you, that one compressor is a good compressor, but it's a lot more money than what's available out there. Of the same quality.
Okay, we have a motion and seconded on the floor. We've asked for comments from the public. Anything further from the council? If somebody wants to make a motion that we table this until we get further information, our highway administrator said that it's time to replace it. It's been 20 years. Do we get anything out of running it for another year and something
I
happens?
don't question the fact that, capital improvement, I'm not questioning at all his judgment about the need to replace it. I'm just wondering if, is it worth waiting a couple weeks just to verify that we're getting what we want to get for that amount of money again?
Well, if it was something that demanded immediate attention, I think it can wait a couple weeks, yeah. And I think we get some input from the road commissioner, and it would satisfy me, I suspect, and be pretty much as Paul suggests. But if a citizen raises a question like that, it's worth checking out.
To add to that, to table it, if we could just see what makes this 150 rotary screw type air compressor necessary, if it could be something a little bit more simplified or not.
Did it say screw type?
Yeah, it's they call it's Ingersoll Rand 7.5 horsepower, 150 psi rotary screw type compressor.
Okay,
is what it's
those
saying.
rotary screws are much more expensive than a reciprocating machine, and their
Right.
longevity is a lot longer.
Yeah.
But
And then-
I don't have a problem with tabling.
Yeah, and I believe, don't get me wrong, I don't want to get in I'm not questioning his technical expertise or anything like that and knowing what he needs to get. I just think,
And if I could further impose on that citizen to maybe bring in a description of what his is, so we can compare apples to apples and satisfy ourselves as to the price, and I move to table the matter for a couple of weeks.
I second.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion to table
Until the next meeting.
until the next meeting.
July 14th, I believe.
All those in favor? Opposed? Did we get it? All those in favor of tabling? Okay, opposed? Okay. Is that the only place I need her to?
Right there. Somebody else.
Okay. Need somebody to sign in here.
What do I sign it?
Let's accept the money from the state for...
Oh, sure.
Okay. Item E, to approve Resolve R 2016-82, to approve the agreement between Hancock County Sheriff's Office and the Town of Bucksport for appointment of officers as deputies of Hancock County, memorandum of understanding for multiple jurisdictional task force.
Our police chief is here to give you background. This is to allow participation in underage drinking and bribe grants that are being administered through Hancock County. These agreements, as the resolve states, we have a mutual aid agreement. Bucksport wants to participate in these these grant opportunities and these programs, and in order to do so, they have to be appointed as deputies of the county for the purposes of these grants. And that's what these two agreements do, and it would allow the chief to sign on behalf of the town.
Do you have anything to say, Chief?
Basically speaking, what it is the UAD team and the RIDE team that we've been involved with for the last 2 or 3 years now. Recently, there was a discrepancy on who could and couldn't be sworn in as deputy sheriffs and enforce the law under them when working for another municipality. They passed emergency legislation on this recently to say that this could be done, so now there needs to be new agreements and MOUs, and if you read in there, this is for 6 months, and then it will be for 3 years after that, because I believe they run from January to December of their contracts.
Will you bring it back to the council after 6 months?
No. I can if you want, but nothing's gonna, the agreement will be the same. It basically says when we work for them, you're still working under the town of Bucksport.
Okay, but
And we've been doing this all along,
Okay.
and this is just a new agreement.
why is the 6 months in there? That's not a trial
Because they
period?
because they run, I believe the reason for that is because they run with their contracts from January to December. We run July to June.
Motion to approve.
Are all deputies to be, are all police officers to be deputized? Or?
No, we currently have 2 that are on those teams.
And I didn't, I read through the document,
Yep.
everything in our packet. The acronyms stand for, is this for drug enforcement or tickets?
It's underage drinking task force that we're on in the roadside impaired driving enforcement, OUI stuff.
So now we could, for example, if we know something's going on at a nearby island boat ramp, we no longer have to wait for a Hancock County
Well,
sheriff to arrive to...
In the agreement, if they request that, but we're not going to get into responding first to other communities at the beginning. These are for the details under the UAD and the RIDE, the scheduled details. If they were to call for assistance over there, yes, and we already have mutual aid agreements that take care of that on top of this also, but it's not to initially go to calls.
Got it, thanks, Chief.
You're welcome.
We've got a motion. Do we have anybody second it?
Second.
Okay.
I just got one question before we do.
Go ahead.
Do you agree to go through with this? Do you?
Yes, I think
Okay.
it's a good idea.
You would approve it, yeah?
Yes, I do, certainly.
Thank you.
Okay, we have motion and second to approve the agreement for Hancock County Sheriffs and the town of Bucksport. Anything from the public? From the council? Oh, go ahead.
During the time that they're working under the county, are we paying for their time, or is the county paying for their time?
We get reimbursed under grants for that.
Anything further from the council? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Item F, to approve Resolve R 2016-83 to set the mill rate for the year 2016 through 2017 fiscal year at $16.50 per thousand.
I make a motion to approve?
Wait, just 1 second. Also, just a second.
Before it changes?
Well, no, our assessor is here, who has done the work to determine what the mill rate can be, and I think he annually gives you a presentation on how this goes, and I was out of sync, because it's my understanding that he generally does this during your budget process. I didn't know that until now, because in my history, the council always approved this, and in the history of Bucksport, you've never voted for a mill rate. You've listened to a presentation from the assessor, who has the authority to set the overlay consistent with what the need for the town's budgets are. So, Mr. Fitzgerald, before we go,
Nice try. Sounded sincere.
Good evening. Did you get the memo, the memorandum?
yes,
In
it
your
was in the
okay.
packet.
So it shows the drivers to why the mill rate has changed, and it's from the greatest to the least on that list. So you see that evaluation is at the bottom, so really my work had very little to do with the change in the mill rate, though my work did have something to do with some of the other ones as far as like the RSU budget going down. So the notes at the bottom kind of give some more background information. But so the RSU budget changing was a result of our sudden and severe application that reduced our town valuation at the state level, so that it allowed them to adjust our school funding, as well as our state revenue sharing, which is another one of the items down near the bottom. So as you see that, so the RSU budget really was lowering our mill rate by over $4. The other revenues includes the reserve funds that were used last year, so that's why that change was so great. Last year there was, I guess, a couple of $1 million in the reserve funds that were used. They're not going to be used this year, so that was a driver putting the mill rate back up again by not spending reserve funds. The municipal budget went up a little bit. Other state payments went up, so it drove the mill rate down. So I guess it's pretty straightforward. If you have any questions on any of those items, we can talk about it.
And the bottom line is that the mill rate dropped 60 cents, and in conjunction with that drop and the increase in homestead, that anyone with a home, anyone who didn't do something to their property last year would see a reduction, and anyone who has a homestead exemption would see an additional, I think, $77 on
right, $5,000 in valuation.
$5,000 in valuation times the current mill rate will also reduce that. The overlay is healthy, but it was done because we have $168,000 we're using this year from education funds that the school gave us back last year that are going to have to eventually catch up with us. Apparently, we bought another year of those. I'll tell you about that in my manager's report. But in order to have the mill rate stay the same or be able to drop again next year, we need to have this so that when the school budget catches back up from that $168,000, that we're not subject to a big push at that time.
Anything else, Jeff?
I'm done.
Okay.
Good job, thank you.
Thank you.
How would the council like to
We already
proceed?
had a motion. A second.
You making a motion to approve?
Second.
We've got a second over here. Okay, there's been a motion and a second to approve the resolve to set the mill rate for the year 2016-2017 to $16.50 per thousand. Anything further from the public? From the council?
Thank you, Susan. Thank you, Jeff.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. I think that's a really a step in the right direction after what we've been through for the last couple of years, and to be able to actually put money back into our capital reserve accounts with a good, healthy overlay, and not take any additional monies out of our undesignated surplus, and still maintain the services we have. I think it's a credit to all of our department heads and our town manager. Thank you, Sue. Okay, G, to approve Resolve R 2016-84 to approve pay requisition of 10 for the sewer treatment plant project in the amount of $108,518.43 to be funded from the $7.8 million temporary financing loan. Susan, do you have anything on this?
It's a big bill. It is the most recent pay requisition for work done at the treatment facility. It includes payment to Apex for the construction, payment to Alver for oversight and inspection, and it also includes in this invoice $11,200 and change for interest on the short-term borrowing note that we renewed effective July 6th of this year for another year for our temporary financing. It had initially only been done for 1 year. We have to pay off that note. That's budgeted through the funding for this project, so that's also included.
How would the council like to proceed?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the resolve. Anything further from the public? From the council?
Just an update, Sue, you said that they're on budget and everything seems
They're
to
on
go-
budget, they're on schedule, and I have no change orders requiring more money.
That's great. Anything further? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, item H, to approve Resolve R 2016-85 to authorize execution of the municipal joiner agreement with the MRC Committee for disposal of solid waste, post-2018. How would the council like to proceed?
Could you just clarify those two again for me, the one below that?
H is the MRC, I is PERC. They're both on here for consideration by,
Oh, okay, so we have to vote on each that way. All right.
Make a motion?
We have a motion, we have a seconded?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve Resolve R 2016-85 to join an agreement with the MRC Committee for Disposal of Solid Waste. Anything further from the public?
may I ask for someone to make a friendly amendment that the signing of this agreement would be contingent upon the receipt of final DEP and Town of Hamden permitting.
You want to change, who made the initial, were you the initial?
Yes.
Yeah. You want to change that language?
I would love to.
Okay.
That'd be great.
Anything further from the council? Okay, all those in favor? Okay. All those opposed? It's tied. We don't have a seventh member. Okay, let's go on to item I, to approve Resolve R 2016-86 to contract with the owner of Penobscot Energy Recovery Company for disposal of municipal waste post-2018. How would the council like to proceed?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Go ahead, Joe.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Anything further from the public? Anything further from the council? All those in favor? Opposed? We're tied again.
You know, if I may, Mr. Mayor, I mean, it just shows how there's no sure footing here. You know, I think it's risky either way. When's the seventh member going to be back?
Next meeting.
The next meeting.
I suggest we put, well, we're under some sort of a deadline here too, aren't we?
In
By
the,
one.
in the fact that we're deadlocked, with the return of our seventh member, we wouldn't be deadlocked any further, no matter what the outcome was. Would the MRC extend to to July 14th because they've extended to other communities that are.
MRC Board President Chip Reeves. I'm also the Public Works Director in Bar Harbor. In light of a member missing here, I would suggest that probably if the manager would craft a request for an extension dated tonight and email it to Greg, that the MRC Board would consider an extension request with a deadline of when that decision would be.
July 14th is our next meeting, and we'll have our seventh member at that time.
So,
Thank you.
Nobody's going to be missing.
Yeah, don't
More
miss.
changes
Yeah.
anyway.
I don't know. Kids got a game.
Okay. We're going to go on to item J, to approve Resolve R 2016-87, to approve it exceeding the 2016-2017 LD1 budget limit by $50,000.
It's like, the updated agenda amount is 44,208, which is what Jeff had provided. LD1 is the law that was passed in 2003 that said that if a community's municipal budget went up by more than the growth factor between the state and local valuation, that the legislative municipal officers had to take a vote to approve that. What happens is in LD1, what you spend is based entirely on what you spent last year. And last year, your municipal budget, because of the use of an extensive amount of fund balance and the fact that you didn't fund your reserves to anything more than $35,000, gave a platform to move forward. And this year on, it was lower than anticipated. And that's what this $44,208, which is the amount that the budget went up over the growth factor based on last year's budget number. But it's a big old act that's required of the council in order to recognize that this has occurred.
How would the council like to proceed?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have motion and a second to approve the resolve. Anything further from the public? From the council? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Go on to item K, to approve Resolve R 2016-88, to vote for Susan Lasad and James Smith for the appointment to the Maine Municipal Association Legislative Policy Committee for 2016 through 2018. How would the council like to proceed?
Is that for James Smith? Motion to approve.
Second. We have motion and a second to approve the resolve. Anything further from the public? From the council? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Item L, to approve Resolve R 2016-89, to approve the 2016-2017 Memorandum of Understanding between the Town of Bucksport and the Bucksport Bay Healthy Community Coalition.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have motion and a second to approve the resolve. Anything further from the public? From the council? Is this very similar to the one we have signed in the past?
This is based on the new, where the RSU 25 is their fiscal agent, and we provide office space. Yes.
Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Item M, to approve Resolve R 2016-90, to transfer a microloan on property at 39 Franklin Street from the current owners to Wilkinson Property Management.
Yes, there is a microloan on that property that is held by Kathleen Coogan and Paul Hansen, that would be transferred to as a lien on the new owners. The new owners financing, the first, has agreed to that lien being placed against the property, while Wilkinson Property Management pays off the balance of it over time in the same way it was being done before. But the council has to approve the
Motion to approve.
transfer.
So our lien has priority? Is that what we're talking
Our
about?
lien is subordinate to the regular mortgage.
Right.
But it's still recorded against the property.
All right, yeah.
We had one recently that the mortgage holder wouldn't agree to the having a subordinate lien. This lien holder has agreed to that.
We have a motion and a second.
So moved.
You second it, David?
Aye.
Okay. Anything from the public? From the council? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Item 10, resignations, appointments, assignments, and elections. Don't have any, I don't believe. Approval of quitclaim deeds and discharges. I don't believe we have any. Town manager's report.
Thank you. I received a call from Superintendent Boothby in regard to the appropriation for the 16-17 fiscal year, the education appropriation, and it seems that there was an error in the warrant articles at the school district meeting, which has resulted in the situation in which the district will be billing us approximately $165,000 less than was allocated in our budget. They will be using fund balance of their own. They will likely be using fund balance of their own to make up the difference in their budget, because their only other option is to go back out for another budget vote and referendum, which would be unlikely. If they use fund balance, then the town will be in the same situation at the end of 2016-17 that we are at the end of 2015-16, and that we will have a credit balance to carry forward into 2017-18 against the school budget in the amount of $165,000. And since it was an error in an article, it wasn't money that they're not going to utilize, so that next year's budget will include it, and we will need to be at that baseline in order for it not to be a huge jump 2 years from now. So just to let you know, we're going to see leftover money in this account for a second year. I've had calls for a number of residents who have animals or who have family members who are sensitive to noise, expressing concern over the upcoming 4th of July and the potential for people to be shooting off fireworks. Please remember that consumer fireworks are not permitted in the town of Bucksport, and violations of that will result in fines. The Newtime Rotary Electronic Waste Recycling event is going to be held in the Home Depot parking lot in Ellsworth on Saturday, July 23rd. This event is open to residents of any Maine community for the purpose of accepting electronic waste. While the event is free, certainly donations are gratefully accepted by the Rotary Club. Items such as televisions, computers, monitors, printers, laptops, digital picture frames, game consoles, photocopiers, fax machines, cell phones, microwave ovens, CD and DVD players, lead-acid batteries, servers, network equipment, ballast and mercury thermostats are all welcome. That's
But
July 23rd from 7 to noon.
Not old paint.
Not old paint. This is not the hazardous stuff. This is the other stuff. And finally, a solution to the problem of the outhouse at the Yellow Schoolhouse not having an appropriate pit as well as a gray water system for the kitchen sink has been resolved, and the project will be in compliance of subsurface wastewater laws when completed.
Thank you. Any questions on any of those? Any questions from the public on any of those? Okay, we're going to go on to item 13, set a public hearing or hold public hearing and approve for any licenses or permits. I believe we do have a public hearing that we need to for a liquor license, right? Okay. Declare the public hearing open on a liquor license for William H. Carrier Jr. doing business as Carrier's Mainly Lobsters. Any comments from the public here? It's a public hearing. No comments? Declare the public hearing closed. How would the council like to proceed?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Barring any violations known by the chief of police, Sean Gagan.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the liquor license for William H. Carrier doing business as Carrier's Mainly Lobsters. Anything further from the public? From the council? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, we're going on back to miscellaneous licenses. The first one being Bucksport United Methodist Church for Spirit on the Waterfront. Do we have any details on this?
It's going to be held on July 31st at 8 p.m. to 1 p.m. It's in the gazebo area. It's right in front of them. It's a worship service. We're going to have a live band. It's barbecue, hamburgers, and hot dogs.
What's the date on that
Free
again?
to everybody.
What's the date on that again?
July 31st, 8 to 1.
Is that the weekend right after the festival?
Yes.
Okay. When is the art festival?
It's in August.
Okay.
August.
Okay. How would the council like to proceed?
Make a motion to approve?
I'll second it. Anything further from the public? From the council? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Item 2 is American Cruise Lines vessel liquor license. Kathy, you want to explain this, please?
This is, we as a community do not have to license it. The state of Maine licenses. These are the small cruise lines that come into the town dock. And in order for them to serve liquor on the boat, on the cruise boat, they have to be licensed by the state of Maine. We just have to give the state of Maine permission that we give them authority to serve the liquor. That's basically.
Make a motion to approve?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the vessel liquor license for American Cruise Lines. Anything further from the public? From the council? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, we're going on to Victoria's licenses. First one being Matthew E. Cody, Maderos LLC, doing business as Ramones, and this is just for food and stuff like that? It's not their liquor license, right? Okay. How would the council like to proceed?
Make a motion to approve? Second.
We have motion and a second to approve the Victoria's license for Matthew Cody. Anything further from the public? From the council? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Second one being William Carrier Jr., doing business as Carrier's Mainly Lobster. Again, this is Victoria's license, basically to sell food at Carrier's Mainly Lobsters. How would the council like to proceed? Motion.
Second.
Okay, we have motion and second to approve the license. Anything further from the public? From the council? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Okay. Item 14, discussion items not on the agenda for the council or the public. We'll open it up to the public first. Any discussion items from the public? Yes, sir.
On the ballot for the vote for the school budget, there was also a question on there as to whether or not people wanted the school budget to be voted on in the future. Whose idea was it to put that on the ballot, and why?
That's a state requirement. When the
State requirement.
When the RSUs were formed, they wanted to give the municipalities the opportunity to continue to vote on the budget yearly or not, and if you voted to keep it on a ballot every June, you had to do it for 3 years, and you could, after 3 years, you could take another vote to see if the citizens still continue to want to vote on it. And I believe we voted to continue to
Yeah.
vote on it every June.
Is there any way that that can be put on the regular ballot in November, or does it have to be on that ballot with the school? I had no idea that that question was coming up.
I believe it's always just before the budget season for the next year, and again, that was set by the state. It would save us money to do it that way, but we are reimbursed by the school department for that election, right?
But not when it goes along with the state. It's just when it's separate.
Right. Okay. Any other discussions items? Yes, sir.
You're giving back the award.
I appreciate the award I received tonight, but I also like to speak for all the volunteers I've had all through the years for recreation. We wouldn't be able to have our program without them. They've done a fantastic job. Well, most of them have. But they've done a very satisfied job, and I've been very appreciative. People that work on the waterfront, Ron Gross in particular, you can't find a better employee than Ron. And we have some good ones up there at the school department and with the rec department. But I just want to recognize all of them. And everything that's happening right now for the town of Bucksport, all the groups are getting together to make this a better community. Years ago, people used to complain most of the time, but now I see more of a forward progress in this community, and hopefully it stays that way. But thank you again.
Thank you, Tim. Any other discussion? Yes, ma'am. I know you have trouble Yeah.
Getting back to the handicap parking, just take into consideration when you do it, not to have to go up over the sidewalk, because if you're in a wheelchair and somebody's pushing you, that's not going to work. You leave it where it's flat.
And when we hold, we're going to be setting a date for the Streets and Roads Committee meeting to discuss this item.
I think so.
Yeah, and, it will be posted, and we'll try to make sure you know the date. We're going to set the date today, so. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Will that be open to the public?
Yes, all of our committee meetings are open to the public.
Thank you.
Any other discussion items from the public? From the council?
Just, a couple things. One, and David, I guess you provided this
Yes.
information. And we were at the waterfront meeting. Some of the people that spoke mentioned the fact that Bangor has been a little bit behind the power curve and boats and docks, and it's something we should take advantage of. And it looks like they're well underway and adding some more docks there. So I would encourage whatever we can do to some of the things, either pulling the group together or getting some of the low-hanging fruit that we talked about at the waterfront meeting actions, so that we can take advantage of what we have here. The other thing and Dawn, thank you for the publicity for the meeting we had. I think it was a great meeting with a number of different groups last week. I think people left the meeting recognizing that we've got some excellent volunteers, some excellent committees, and they're not all working at cross purposes, that they're really working in harmony, and there's some areas that we may overlap a little bit, but my sense was that the group felt that we should meet again in the future, and that there's a lot of room for continued collaboration in moving Bucksport forward. So very pleased with the way that came out.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to encourage others to volunteer out there that are listening in, be part of what I think of as the resurrection of Bucksport. Up from the ashes, get involved, be part of the solution rather than sticking with the problem. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, well, Mr. Mayor, you participated in the meeting. I was there too, that Rob facilitated. And for those unable to attend, there were actually 7 groups that made their presentation. Bucksport Next, Heart and Soul, Main Street Bucksport, Wednesdays on Main, Hancock County Planning, Chamber of Commerce, and Bucksport Bay Healthy Community. And each group was supposed to go for about 10 minutes, and it actually went for about 20 minutes. But it was really an outstanding meeting to see how it was eye-opening, quite frankly, to see how it went. So anyway, thank you, Bob, for being the facilitator on that. Back to the marina for just a second. Have been stopping down more regularly to talk to Bill Chandler, the manager of the marina, and he's actually been able to move around some sections of dock to accommodate about 5 more boats down there, rather large ones, and in fact being able to put some folks over on the town dock area. He's able to make some money off of that, to the point that next year we may want to think about doing that, and that would pay the cost of the crane that comes in to do all the dock work. Actually, there's that kind of money, but Bill is really doing his best. He's still under demand to have people come into our marina. So anyway, thank you.
Any other discussion items? Okay, we're going to go on to item 15, is upcoming public hearings, designated topics for committee assignments, and scheduling of committee meetings. A being schedule an Economic Development Committee meeting to discuss better signage.
Councilor Key had requested this, and maybe economic development isn't, but concern over signage in the community and not being sufficient to reflect what we have. And I'm not sure which committee. Economic development may have been where it started. I know there are some signs that are being done through that committee right now, but I don't know if that's
Signs would
sufficient.
be streets and roads. They're on the streets and roads.
Yeah, they are. Well, I don't think I was referring so much to the roads themselves as it's hard to find a big enough sign, or I think the signs could be a little bigger, showing how to get to the marina,
Right.
how to get to the Veterans Memorial, and how to get maybe even to the center of the universe. Because people just, and also to look into, I have received some complaints that it's not as well signed, the signage isn't as good as it could be for people trying to find the Bucksport Performing Arts Center. I mean, I see the signs okay, but others seem to think it might be helpful if they were a little bigger. So those are the kind of things we'd be discussing. Yeah. And any other things that we think were appropriate. But yeah, we got the road signs. Yeah.
Road signs, not on property.
Should that, can we do that as part of the Streets and Roads Committee meeting? Or is
That might be a better spot for it.
Yeah, we're going to set
Yeah,
streets and
we
roads.
can just change that economic development to streets and roads and add in the sidewalk issue to it.
Who is on that day?
Who's
Robert?
Okay.
Joseph?
Let's schedule the Streets and Roads Committee right now. That's, Robbie, you the chair?
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm just looking at the calendar right now. So we need to do those before the, so the 14th, maybe either the 14th or 28th in July.
Want to do it on the
I think we were
14th?
going to do the 14th, we were going to do finance when
Oh, that's right.
Councilor Stewart was back for a couple of issues
So
that we waited for,
Right.
for him.
28th.
Well, the 28th, I mean, we ought, if we're going to do the signage, we ought to get it going because of the summer, take advantage of the summer season.
Yeah, we could do one on the 20th of the.
You could do both finance and streets and roads, you just have to start earlier, that's all.
5 o'clock.
Are you
could do
available
one
at
at 5
5?
and one at 6, or
Yeah, I should be able
Who's
to
on
get
the
there by
finance
5.
committee?
Peter.
Or do you want to go at 6 and do the finance at
Yeah, I
5?
think
Maybe Peter, Paul Garvin, and Bob.
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah. Streets and Roads at 6.
Got you.
Finance at 5 and Streets and Roads at 6 on the 14th?
Got it.
That acceptable?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I guess we're all set. We'll go to item 16.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second for adjournment. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much.
Dave.
We got smoke tonight, 10 to 1.
Very rich man.